We've all been in a situation like this. Might be in a crowded room, at a party, at a trade show, and someone says, "What do you do?" And we have to answer in the most appropriate way what it is that we do without boring the person that we're talking to, without sending them away, or potentially it's an opportunity for us to meet with a prospective partner or investor. We're on the spot. We've got to put forward our best pitch yet. And yet this is often where we stumble. We don't know what to say. And it might be that we're on stage and we are pitching for something, a prize, and we need to get everyone to buy in, to vote for us. And so we have to really put forward our case to get them to buy in so that they pick us. It might be that we're in a situation more formal where we're presenting our opinions and we need maybe not just the audience, but the country to go with what we're saying. We have to put our idea forward in such a way that people understand the benefits for them and why they should choose that, why they should vote for that. It might be that we're in work and we've got to get the rest of the team on board with what we're putting forward, what we need to focus on. And so we're presenting our idea and hoping that they all get on board. What we want in all of those situations is that our audience is engaged, they're actively listening, they're interested in hearing more. We have about 8 seconds to get them hooked, to get them actively listening. And if we haven't done that, then often they look like this. They're disengaged, they're bored, and even worse, they're starting to look for holes and critiquing what it is that you're saying. And the reason that they do that most of the time is because the speaker is too focused on themselves. It's all about them, me. Or it might be that they're using language that doesn't make sense to the audience. They don't understand it. Or you've gone into full sales mode and they're sort of taken back by what you're saying. You've got a script and off you go. Or the opposite, in that you lack confidence in what you're saying and you stumble. It might be that you go into too much detail, or you're waffling, or you're going off track. Very easy to do. Or you might not tailor what you're saying to who you're saying it to. It might not even be relevant to them, so they sort of glaze over because they don't really understand. And most sales or pitch training teaches you to know your audience. This is a great idea. Who are your audience? Who are you pitching to? What do you need to say to them? Prepare for objections. Make sure you know how they might object to what you're saying. Tell a story, because humans love stories, but it makes us memorable. It makes it engaging. And practice, because the more you practice, the better it'll come across. And that's great tips, really good advice. And following this formula is good. However, it assumes that we have the right information to go into that story. We understand the audience enough. We know who they are deeply. We have thought about their situation and what they value. We've used the hook plus a problem and our solution and the unique selling point plus a call to action, but we might not have a good hook, or we might not know the problem in depth. And we might not have a really unique selling point because we haven't considered ourselves in the market, or what our call to action should naturally be for this situation. So 25-8 does this differently. We start by helping you identify the what you should say in your pitch, not just by developing your pitch. And then we help you to identify the when you should say the what in your pitch, and provide a tool that can be used by anyone to feel confident and comfortable, especially for those that operate in a complex or technical environment, that are more adept at talking to technical statements and capability documents than they are in a pitching environment. We combine strategic thinking with the pitch storytelling so that you get increased impact. 25-8 exists to help startups and SMEs thrive, by increasing your confidence and strategic capabilities so that you can work smarter, not harder, as if you've had an extra hour in the day and day in the week, 25/8, if you will. Our unique approach combines business diagnostics, education, expert coaching, and industry mentorship and industry connections that we ensure is accessible to all, so that you know exactly what to do for your specific business to thrive in modern markets in a short space of time. We've been trusted by organizations across Australia to support over 10,000 startups and SMEs in the last 10 years. I'm Sam Hurley. I'm the CEO of 25/8. My background is in global growth as a global executive. I developed partnership agreements in all but 2 countries across the world. And so partnerships, relationships, pitching was definitely part of my role in developing, certainly where we've developed new technology and new ways of doing things, how to get that across, but also how to do that in different cultures and ways, completely different ways of doing things was something that I excelled at. I've also been leading a small business myself for the last 10 years, so understand the challenges of small business and small business growth. And so I'm on a mission to help small and medium-sized business leaders fill the gaps in their knowledge and find the confidence to know what to do and to do it, to grow their business and take it to the next stage. My call to action, because I have literally just pitched to you 25/8, would be, depending on who you were, about the pitch training program. You join the pitch training program. It could be, if you were a partner, I'd say we can create a targeted business program for your business community. It might be that you're a potential partner. The next call to action might be, oh, here's some information that you can pass on, or should we book in a call to discuss your needs? I might ask you a question. Who do you think might benefit from this? Or who do you think that we should speak to? And these are the call to actions I might have. And I might tailor these. I might have a suite of call to actions depending on who I'm talking to. If it's an investor, I might have a monetary amount that I need and what I'm going to use that for. And so in this virtual environment, in a short space of time, I've just pitched you 25/8, one of our products, essentially, one of our training programs, and fundamentally one of the problems that we solve, helping people to pitch. Because really, all of our programs at 25/8 start with this, because it's all in your pitch. If it is that you can't succinctly describe the value that you provide for your audience, then doesn't matter the size of business, you're going to come into some challenges, certainly when it comes to growth. So we always start here, but it's not just about the way that you say this, it's the what and the elements that you consider before you even put your pitch together. And that's my goal for today's session, is helping you understand what pitching is, increase your understanding of the storytelling structures, but also the strategic thinking needed so that you've got the right information in that pitch, so it's more impactful. And then I'm going to leave you with the tool, the 6 pillars of pitching, so that you can use that formula, use that process to deliver your pitch in the different circumstances. And hopefully by the end of this, it increases your confidence to pitch your business in any situation. So what is pitching? What does it mean? It's basically to present an idea to another party in a convincing and concise way. A business pitch needs to give your audience a clear understanding of why they should believe or buy into what you're saying. You might use your pitch in various different circumstances. It might be that you are trying to get investment, and so you're pitching to investors, or you might be pitching for a grant or to get into an accelerator. It might be that you're using your pitch to partners in your marketing messaging. Fundamentally, we understand our pitch, our value, how we get across the value of our business in marketing, because otherwise our marketing message isn't as strong. And the smaller we are, the stronger our message needs to be. It also helps then really drive what it is that we do in our business, the build, our team. It helps to attract them. It helps us to grow. It puts real focus on what it is that we're doing, and the grants and the tenders, the proposals or RFTs and RFQs, if that's where we're going. But really starting to think about who we serve, what we do, and how we get that across succinctly. So we need to ensure that our audience is always engaged and not disengaged. And how do we do that? We tell a story. And the story isn't about us. It's not the story of our business necessarily. It's about really communicating some ideas and for that story to formulate in our customers' minds so that they can then communicate it to others. For example, I'm going to get you to consider these 3 words just for a moment. And what comes to mind? Let's do it again. These 3 words here. What comes to mind? Our brains are making stories. It might be visual. We might be telling ourselves a story. But even just 3 words means that we are starting to put a story together in our head. And this is what happens with our customers as well. So this is what we need to do. We need to ensure that the words that we put in front of our customers are the ones that we want them to use in order to put this picture together. And we can do that through the storytelling structures that I'm going to talk through now. And the first one is the hero's journey, which you might recall from high school when putting together an English story yourself. And you've got a protagonist, much like a Hollywood movie, and they're venturing out into the ether, into the wild on a new adventure, a new quest. Now, something's triggered them. Something has motivated them to make this move, to make the journey. Something about change, something about being different, or a vision of what the future might be. And however, they encounter obstacles along the way. But then luckily a guide comes along and helps overcome these obstacles to lead them to the happily ever after. Now, this framework, the hero's journey, it can be put together for our customers. The protagonist is our customer. They're inspired by the vision that we're creating, the results that we can create for them. The problem is their current situation, the way things are, and we can help them overcome that. We're their guide with our solution, and we're going to lead them to the happily ever after. Another really simple storytelling framework is the before and after bridge. Here's the before, the current state, and here's our product or service, and this is the after. Again, thinking about the customer and what this means for them. If it is that what we do isn't necessarily solving a problem, a framework that we can use is AIDA, which is where we're basically trying to gain attention and interest and desire to get them to take action. So these 3 storytelling frameworks are all useful in telling the story about our customer. And so what we want them to be able to do is to pass that information on. We've told them a story such that they're able to tell that story to others. And we know we're successful if it is that they can successfully pass on that story to other people, as if round a campfire. In order to do that, it's really good to embed some things within it. Use an existing customer, an existing example, so they can picture it. Again, what it is that we are trying to do is help them put it in their minds, make it simple for them. It might be that we've got a before after. We've got a customer here that transitioned to a fully remote workforce this year and needed help making sure deadlines were met. With our help, they were able to get up to 10% of their time back in their day and focus more on more important things like strategic planning. So really think about the result that you're creating for them, what that meant for them, what that means for them. and embed those into your storytelling principles. However, before we do that, before we tell that story, we need to make sure that we totally understand these very important elements before we put the story together. Because as the saying goes, you can't put lipstick on a pig. And what I mean there is that if our strategy is not very good, it doesn't matter how good a story we might tell, it means that it's going to be less of an impact. So if we can get our strategy good and our pitch storytelling good, our impact is going to be great. So really, when we consider the strategy, it's this quadrant, these 4 elements that are the most important, if it is that we don't have a lot of time. And that's our purpose and impact, the transformation, that vision, the trigger, and understanding what we're here to do. And then why we're different, the key differentiators, our position in the market, and then who finds us valuable. Who finds what we're doing of value, who our target customers are, and then what we stand for, who we are, why choose us, and how concise, cohesive is our messaging, our value proposition, our unique value proposition. So purpose and impact is all about starting with the end in mind. Again, if we think of the hero's journey, it's triggering them on that quest to make change. We need to consider the results, the outcomes. What is it that they're going to do? What, it's going to force them to change. What is the picture that they can see in their minds, the results? Oh, this is enough to make me want to sign up to make a change. And so we have to state it as a future outcome. And it's the reason our business exists. It's customer focused. It's about them. It's not about us being the world leaders in 10 years' time. It's really about the outcome you're creating for them, or them in general. It conveys that purpose, your reason that your business exists. It's the world you're creating, essentially, and you're asking people to buy into this. And one way to do this is to ask yourself why. Why do we do this? Why, get down to the heart of it. And it should be aspirational, further than just in a couple of years. What's your aspirational reach? What are you trying to create? A really great way of communicating this value is your North Star metric. You may have heard this in the startup world. It's a really neat way of getting across what it is that you do quite quickly. If it is that you can determine that one metric that indicates the value that you provide. For us at 25/8, we measure capabilities and confidence, the ability to do something strategic within your business and your confidence to do it. Netflix is the amount of minutes streamed, because they know the more their audience watches, the more value they are receiving. And it also serves them internally to understand what is of value, so they can continue to serve valuable content. So North Star metrics are a really great way for you to pinpoint the one thing that helps you identify that you're creating value, you're giving value to your customers. And one way that we could communicate our North Star metric could be that, by 2030, we'll have served 20 million entrepreneurs. We've built 20 million entrepreneurs' capabilities and confidence for 25/8. For Netflix, it might be that, each and every household has a Netflix account and they're streaming on average, 3 hours a day. And so by 2030, and so we're creating a bit of a smart goal so that we can communicate our value, and then people could start to see what it is that we're trying to do. It's a really succinct way of doing that. It shouldn't be revenue, however, because revenue is showing that you're more focused on the money and that you think you're just after your customers are your money machines. So consider this as a tool to convey your value or get that hook, what you're trying to achieve through your North Star metric. Your position in the market is always about what's around you. What are your competitors doing? And you might say to me, oh, Sam, I don't have any competitors. I'm doing something completely new in the market. And that's the case. But what happens is there are alternatives to what you're doing currently. There's things that people are doing now that they're not doing with your product or service. And so that's going to be an alternative. That's a competition for a co-working space. Working at home is competition. And even though they're not a traditional competitor, they're not another co-working space. And so you need to consider those alternatives, because you're always competing against something. So what are your key differentiators? What's your position in the market? Who are your competitors? What are the alternatives? If you could pinpoint 3 things that you're the best at, way ahead of the competition or alternatives, what are they? And are they valuable to your customers? And that's really key, because when we think about our customers, it's all about them. And they might look the same. We might segment the market in certain ways, and we've segmented, or, we've got Australia and female Australia. It might be by demographics. We certainly, if we're in the startup world, talk about our total addressable market and have these big numbers that make it seem attractive and sound attractive in terms of the potentiality of what we're presenting. However, really, even if it is that our segments, our customers are the same, they all have different characteristics, the psychographics. And the most successful business, the most successful startups are those that can pinpoint those psychographics, the things that differentiate their customers, and those that really will find the things that you're different in the market at as the most valuable. They're the ones that you need to go after, and they're the ones that you go after first. And if you can, you build a picture of these hypothetically, and there's different terms that have been used over the years: ICPs, ideal customer profiles, customer personas, avatars. Essentially, what we want to do is hypothesize, make some assumptions about our customers, paint a picture, a human picture of them, so that we can get in their shoes, understand them, and use these insights and bring in a bit of data so that we can use that to influence how we talk and who we talk to, and the way that we talk, and how we tailor our pitch essentially to them. And we might do that through different methods, creating profiles, understanding their fears. And as I say, it's more about their psychographics than it is demographics, essentially. Once we understand who will find us of most value, we think about what we value, our brand, what do we stand for? And do we really reinforce that message when we're presenting ourselves in the different formats, and especially in pitch? Does what I look like, what I'm wearing, does the presentation, does the way that I come across all reinforce the message of our brand, who we are, what we stand for? If we're professional, do we come across in that way? If we're informal, do we come across in that way? You've got to consider the influence that the visual and verbal communication has on people, not just what you say, how you say it, and what you look like. The hidden communication and how you use that to build brand. And great brands do this really well. They reinforce the message. They build expectations. You get an expectation of what you will have, what you'll experience through that brand. It's reinforced at different touch points. You come to expect things, and that perception of the brand in most people's minds is very similar, and they've controlled that. And so you consider how you might present yourself too. What impression do you want to create? What do you want people to think of you if they see you, your brand, your presentation, your document? What do you value? What do you stand for? And think of all the touch points, the post-sale, the pre-sale, the sale, all the times that your customer will come into contact with your business, your organization. You is another chance for you to reinforce your brand, your message, your pitch. And so the more we can do this, the stronger our message is. If it's diluted, if it's different messages and different perceptions, it makes it harder for us to become memorable. And when we've got limited resources, when we're startups and small businesses, we can be really clever with some of these touch points in order to remain memorable. And a brand here that in Melbourne that did this really well was a toilet subscription company called Who Gives a Crap. And early on in the inception of their business, there was a number of things. Simon sat on a toilet for a number of hours, but really cleverly, they'd thought about all of these different touch points. And this was post-sale. And so here you can see an email that was sent, and it said your shipping status in a relationship. They used really informal love language in the confirmation that your toilet paper box was on its way, using emojis. This was 2018. It was a surprise and a delight for you to receive this. You weren't expecting this in your inbox. And so this made you talk. It made you remember them. Another thing that they did that was memorable was they put messages on the actual box themselves. They talked to the delivery person. How many companies put a message to the delivery driver, the delivery person on their box? And so that made the delivery person talk about them. And then they gave ideas for what to do with this box. And this was pre-COVID, but you can imagine people started to do these things with boxes. And then what did they do once they had done these things? They started posting about them. And each of the toilet papers was individually wrapped in this really nice wrapping paper, and people started using those as well. And so through that, people were posting about it because it was novel, it was fun, and people were doing the things that they'd been told to do on the box. And that's built their brand, it built their attention, and they continued to stand by their values and who they are, and this tone of voice throughout. And their brand is very strong, stocked in large supermarkets now throughout Australia. So what touch points does your brand have, and how can you use them? How can you interact with people so that they remember you? And remember that each and every point is a chance for you to interact with your customers. And then unique value proposition is really about what makes people choose you over an alternative. Why you? And so as well as the promise of value that you're going to deliver to your customers about solving their problem, why you more than anyone else? Why are you the expert? And so why should they engage you and not an alternative? And really understanding what makes you unique in this, and your team potentially, or your business, or partly your brand and what you stand for can be embedded in this unique value proposition. The other thing to consider is your ecosystem. How can you leverage your ecosystem? Consider anyone within that to build credibility. If it is that we're early stage businesses, who can we partner with? Who can back us? Who can we put our name on our website so that we build that credibility? Who can we reach who shares our vision? Who can we be strategic partners with? Who's connected to you? Who wants to help you get it out there? And how can you leverage all of those things? Business model is probably something you wouldn't pitch at, and neither the other things as well, depending on what the situation is, but it's fundamentally something that you need to understand before you pitch, because ultimately you need to understand how you're going to make money, whether that's part of the pitch or whether you're pitching to investors and they're going to ask questions about this. So is it a traditional business model, or are you proposing business model innovation here? Is it sound? Does it work? Will people give you money? Are they going to pay for it? Have you got proof that they're going to pay for it? Has someone given you money for what you're saying? And so that's really an important part. And I suppose in another respect, even if we don't convey our business model necessarily, it is about that social proof that, the case studies that we have customers that love what we do and we've already served, we can do what we say we can do. And then the market opportunity. And for startups pitching to investors, this is where these big numbers might come in: total addressable market, serviceable addressable market. But essentially, really here, whilst we're considering those numbers, and it's useful to understand that too, it's really useful to understand really the ones, the psychographics, that the segmentation of your market, so that you understand who's going to find value in what you do more than anyone else. Because often what we do is that we need to get the others on board. We need these early adopters on board so that the others get on board. They've seen that proof that others want it. So this might be a traction thing, if we're a traction slide, if we're looking to get investment, or it might be reviews if we're looking to prove that other people want what we're doing and they like what we're doing. So really here we considered who wants what we have. Does enough people want it? Have we got a market? Is this a viable business? Can we prove that people want it? Do we have those things? So those are all of the elements, the strategic elements that you need to consider before you even put together your pitch, your business, the problem that you're solving, but also potentially the way that in which you tell that story and how you embed your customer in there so that it's engaging. So how do we do that? What's a formula for the perfect pitch? Well, 25/8, 6 pillars of pitching framework might just be the way that helps you do this succinctly, cohesively, and helps you from going off track. What we want to consider is these 6, and going in, you don't necessarily need to go in the order, but it helps to have this picture in your mind. And we always start very similar to the hero's journey by painting a picture. What's driving you? What made you start? Why does your business exist? What's the change you're trying to create, the transformation? What are the results that you can get for the customers? Can you hook them in early on in your presentation? And then talk about the problem that you're solving. Why can't they reach this vision currently? There must be some obstacles in the way. And then how do you help them overcome those obstacles? And it's really about linking your solution, not a list of features. It's about linking your solution to the problem and talking about the benefits of each of these to the customer. And then why you're an expert, what gives you the expertise in order to deliver this solution for those customers, the problem you're solving, and for whom, who finds that valuable. And then, do people want it? Have you got proof? Do they want what you're offering? It might be, if we're early stage, we've got feedback. We might have case studies. We might have Google reviews. We might have numbers. It might be that we have partnerships. We've won awards. We want to show that we're capable of delivering this solution to this problem for this target audience. And then, probably most importantly, and often forgotten, is the call to action at the end. What do you want the audience to do next? And you might find it useful to go back to the start of this video and see some of the options that I talked through for 25/8 in the short pitch I delivered at the start. It really depends on who your audience is and what situation is and what feels natural as a next step in the relationship. You don't go from just meeting someone to asking them to marry you. So we don't do that in business either. What we want to do is find the most natural next step. Is it a call? Is it another meeting? Is it a technical document? Is it a demonstration? Is it an ask for investment if we're pitching to investors? And what is it for? Can we detail that? But making sure that we have an ask. And even if it is that we're just presenting our idea or business, do you know anyone that has this problem? Or is there anyone within your network you think this might benefit? Prompting people helps them really to consider those next steps. Otherwise, they walk away thinking, oh, that was a great idea, but not really knowing what to do next. And that's the other key. We need to make sure that people can walk away being able to communicate this to others. Oh, I heard this great, what was it? So using this formula helps them paint that picture, much like the keywords, give them a little bit of each in each of these things, so that each of these pillars, so that they're able to take that away. You're not giving them too much information, but enough for them to understand what it is that you do, and they want to take action through your call to action. Hopefully these elements and this framework is useful for you, and practice, follow the guidelines, tell the story, consider your strategic elements, practice again, follow the formula. You've got this. It's just about conveying that value and identifying what that value truly is in the market. And if we can help in any way, 25/8 has a range of pitch mentors that you can review your pitch with, and a full pitch training program that helps you then determine that value for yourself. If any of those would be of use, please reach out to us using the information below. Thanks.